Welcome back. We are going on another virtual field trip, and this time we are taking a tour of the West region in the western part of the United States. I'm here in my Google Earth slideshow. I'm going to launch into present, and you can see these are all of the locations that we are going to be visiting today, starting in Montana and ending at Waikiki Beach in Honolulu, Hawaii. So let's jump into present and get this field trip started. Our first stop is Lola Pass in Montana, a stop on the Lewis and Clark Trail. This pass is right at the border between Montana and Idaho. Lola Pass, Montana, a stop on the Lewis and Clark Trail. Our first stop is Lola Pass in the Rocky Mountains. A pass is a route across mountains. In 1805, a group of 35 very hungry Americans crossed this pass. The Americans were part of an expedition led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. An expedition is a journey with a purpose. The Lewis and Clark expedition had two goals. The first was to find an all-water route from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. The travelers failed because such a route does not exist. Their second goal was to explore the lands west of the Mississippi. This Lewis and Clark did very well. Their maps and journals gave Americans their first good look at the region we now call the West. When Lewis and Clark reached Lola Pass, they were almost out of food. All they had left was a soup mix that everybody hated. The men survived by eating candles, bear oil, and two of their horses. Today, people come to this part of Montana to hike and fish. Some come to follow the Lewis and Clark Trail to the Pacific. Luckily for these travelers, they don't have to eat candles or that awful soup to survive. Nature's tea kettles in Wyoming's Yellowstone National Park. Lewis and Clark saw a lot of sights on their expedition, but they missed the geysers of Yellowstone National Park. A geyser is a spring that shoots hot water and steam into the air. Geysers are sometimes called nature's tea kettles. Water is heated deep inside the earth. When the water gets hot enough, it hisses and boils just like a tea kettle on a stove. What happens when this boiling water reaches the Earth's surface? It shoots into the air. There are about 10,000 hot springs, mud volcanoes, steam vents, and geysers in Yellowstone. A geyser named Old Faithful erupts in a cloud of steam every 30 to 90 minutes. Fur trappers were some of the first Americans to see Yellowstone. No one believed their stories of steaming springs. Later on, a photographer took pictures of the geysers. People were impressed with the photographs. Many people wanted to protect the geysers and the beautiful land around them from development. In 1872, the U.S. government created Yellowstone National Park to do just that. It was the first national park in the world. Only 300 people visited Yellowstone the year it became a park, but today the park is very popular. Over 3 million people come to Wyoming to visit Yellowstone each year. Visitors enjoy the beauty of Yellowstone's mountains and meadows. And team, I just want to take a moment right now and remind you that you can click on each of these images and it's going to give you a different view of these hot springs. And as always, you can click the map man, the map person down in the corner. And anytime you see a blue line or a blue dot show up, you could drop the map person onto those dots or onto that line, and you will jump into that view. You could even go all the way up here to the Old Faithful viewing area. And, ooh, the big Cub geyser hidden way in the back. It seems secret and awesome. But you can move to those spaces and you can view those areas and have a virtual reality experience of these amazing nature's tea kettles, this Old Faithful geyser. That being said, remember, you can use the pin and you can drop it in so many places anywhere throughout the map to try to experience more, to see more, to view more, to do more, to have a more immersive field trip here and actually do something that we can't do no matter what. And we will jump to our third stop on our virtual field trip, which is Leadville, Colorado, the West's richest silver mining town. Welcome to historic Leadville, Colorado. We are looking at the entrance to an old mine. Leadville sits high in the Rocky Mountains at 10,200 feet. It is one of our country's highest cities. In the past, it was also the West's wildest and richest silver mining town. Miners first came to this area looking for gold. They found some, but it was hard to separate the gold from the local sand. In 1878, a mineral expert took a closer look at the pesky sand. Guess what he found? The sand was rich in both lead and silver. The discovery of silver brought good times to Leadville. The city grew rapidly as miners flocked to the area. Then, in 1893, the silver boom ended. For a time, it looked as though Leadville would become an empty ghost town. But Leadville was lucky. Other valuable minerals were found in this area. One is molybdenum. This metal is used to make high-strength steel. The town survived. Today, Leadville is a tourist center. Some people come to learn about the history of this rich mining area. Others come to ski in winter or fish and hike in the summer. Sunny Southern California's movie industry. Watch your step. Look down at your feet and you will see stars set into the sidewalk. We are walking down Hollywood Boulevard. On this street, special movie, television, and music stars are honored with a star and their names placed in the sidewalk. This street in Los Angeles, California, is one of the most famous streets in the world. Movie making is a giant industry in Southern California. America's first movies were made in the Northeast, but movie makers needed sunny days to film outdoors. The Northeast is often cloudy and rainy. A few movie makers found the sunshine they needed in Southern California. Others soon followed. Today, thousands of people in Southern California work in the movie industry. Some work as writers, actors, set designers, and directors. Many more people work in jobs that help the movie industry. Some of these workers make costumes and equipment. Others provide important services such as transportation, food, and construction. Each year, millions of tourists visit Southern California and enjoy its warm, sunny weather. Many of these tourists tour the movie studios, hoping to bump into a movie star at the same time. And yes, team, this is Hollywood Boulevard. If you zoom in and if you use the pins, you will be able to see that there are stars for like celebrating famous actors and actresses over all of time. This particular location right here, you could zoom in and find Donald Duck's star. California's Central Valley, America's fruit and salad bowl. Do you snack on raisins? Spread strawberry jam on your toast? Look around you. Those foods probably came from California's Central Valley. The Central Valley is shaped like a long bathtub. The sides are formed by mountain ranges. The bottom is covered with deep, rich soil. Summers here are long and warm. Does this sound like a good place to farm? It is, but there's a problem. Almost no rain falls during the growing season. California has solved this problem by building dams on rivers that flow down from the mountains. In winter, water collects behind the dams. In summer, farmers use this water to irrigate crops. Irrigation turned the Central Valley into what people call America's fruit and salad bowl. Farmers here raise more than 300 crops, most of them fruits and vegetables. You probably eat some of them every day. The Central Valley is also a center of farming technology. Technology is the use of tools and ideas to meet people's needs. Scientists here have invented many machines to help farmers pick their crops. One is a tomato picking machine. It must be gentle so it won't crush the tomatoes. Scientists tested this machine with eggs. The machine can pick up an egg and pack it in a box without breaking the egg. I just think it's interesting to note here, team, that you can see the mountains on the edge here of the bathtub, and you can see how green it is down here, which shows that this area has been heavily irrigated and watered in order for it to grow the crops in order for the plants to grow as they need. I think it's just a really interesting visual that you can see here from our field trip, from us using Google Earth. All right, we're moving north. The Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. We have reached the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. A gorge is a deep, narrow valley with steep walls. The Columbia River cut this beautiful gorge out of rock. The Columbia River begins in the Rocky Mountains in Canada. It flows 1,200 miles south and west into the Pacific Ocean. For part of its journey, the river forms the boundary between the states of Washington and Oregon. The Columbia looks lazy here, but don't let that fool you. This is one hard-working river. Dams on the river make a lot of electricity. Many businesses use this electric power, and farmers use water from the river to irrigate crops. Columbia River waters irrigate more than 8 million acres of land. Farmers and business people use the river for transportation. Many goods travel on the Columbia to shipping centers. It is one of the most traveled rivers in the country. Putting the river to work has been good for people. Both Oregon and Washington are growing rapidly, but the use of the river has been bad for fish, especially salmon. A sawmill in Tacoma, Washington. Welcome to Tacoma, Washington. Tacoma was founded 150 years ago as a logging town. Today, Tacoma is still a center of the wood products industry. Wood products include lumber, plywood, cardboard, and paper. Let's visit a sawmill in Tacoma. There are 2 things I like about touring a sawmill. The first is watching giant saws turn logs into lumber. The second is the smell of freshly sawed wood. What I don't like is the noise. Every time a saw cuts into a log, it makes a screaming sound. When that happens, you may want to cover your ears. Can you guess how much wood the average American uses each year? Over a ton. A lot of that wood is in the paper we use. 681 pounds of paper per person. All that wood equals one 100-foot tall tree, 18 inches thick for each American every year. Much of that wood comes from the West. In the 1800s, forests attracted loggers and lumbermen to this region. The mountains of the West were covered with forests. Today, many Westerners still work in the lumber industry. Anchorage, Alaska, starting point of the Iditarod. We are in Anchorage, Alaska. Alaska is by far the largest of the 50 states. Yet, it has one of the lowest populations of any state. Can you guess why? One reason is its chilly climate. Alaska is farther from the equator than any other state. This makes Alaska our coldest state. Its winters are so cold that your door handle can freeze and snap off in your hand. People have been attracted to Alaska by its resources. In 1898, gold was discovered near the town of Nome. Within 2 years, Nome grew to more than 20,000 people. Another rush of people came in the 1960s. That was when oil was discovered in northern Alaska. Today, many people come to Alaska to enjoy its open space and outdoor activities. A favorite sport here is dog sled racing. Alaskans used to depend on dog sleds to get around in winter. Now they use airplanes and snowmobiles. The most famous dog sled race is the Iditarod, held each year in March. The Iditarod begins right here in Anchorage. It ends 1,150 miles away in Nome. A few teams of dogs and their mushers or drivers cover the distance in an amazing 9 to 12 days. No wonder Alaskans call this event the last race on Earth. And we'll jump from Alaska to Hawaii. Honolulu, Hawaii, a tourist paradise. You have just flown from our country's coldest state to one of its warmest. Hawaii lies closer to the equator than any other U.S. state. Its climate is sunny and warm all year round. Look at beautiful Waikiki Beach in Honolulu, Hawaii. Today, tourists from all over the world enjoy the sunny beach. Tourism is Hawaii's most important industry, but it wasn't always such a big deal. 100 years ago, the main industry in the Hawaiian Islands was raising sugarcane. Hawaii's sugar planters needed lots of workers for their plantations. Those workers came from China, Japan, the Philippines, Portugal, and other places. Today, many jobs in Hawaii are related to tourism. And our last stop here is to zoom in to sunny Waikiki Beach, where we can see the beautiful waters of the ocean. And we understand that there are many different industries and many different jobs and reasons why people would come to live and work and adventure in the West. But one thing has stayed in common from the time the West was founded to the time we are in now, and that is no matter where you look, there is plenty of sunshine in the West.